So this is, like I said, this is going to be a deep dive with 2 parts to it. This is really the how do you get started? What are the features? Oh my gosh, I didn't know that that was NPI. And what do you mean? What exactly is practice ignition? So we're going to go through several different what and how to utilize it. So some of those strategies, especially right now, for those of you who are like me, 2020 was such a hard year that our firm spent a lot of hours helping clients. And I know that some of you did the same thing that I did. I gifted some of those hours and donated them because of clients that I could see were suffering, and it felt so wrong to collect on hard times. But here we are, and those clients have been super loyal because I did that. Now we've had 2021. I feel like a lot of rates are changing throughout just the world. And it's time now in 2022 to actually make sure that we've got engagement letters going out to our clients that are up-to-date pricing. Some of you probably do the thing where you're doing engagement letters every year. For us, we just do an auto renew, so that way we can have our clients, we do an auto renew that what it does is it just allows them to stay with us, and unless there's something that changes, we do a month to month with our clients. It's ongoing and definite until we ever decide to part ways, but we don't do anything that locks them in because we want to be able to, on both sides, if necessary, wave goodbye without any hardship. I don't know, Ryan, do you see very many people like that? Which version of terms do you normally see?
Yeah, I think it depends. If firms offer tax, I think that's generally, they kind of think of that annual engagement process with perhaps those tax clients. If it's more just the monthly accounting, monthly bookkeeping work, we see firms that set up more of like an ongoing engagement. So we see a bit of both, but I think it's important to your exact point of, you've had these clients on the same terms from 2.5, 3 years ago, the level of service that you've provided, you've kind of, gone above and beyond through COVID and all the, government assistance programs. So it is a really good time to evaluate your rates and perhaps increase fees. And I think that's an okay thing to be thinking about. So yeah, I think we definitely see both, but I think, yeah, when you kind of sit back and look and it's like, oh, wow, we've, this client's been on the same rate for 2.5, 3 years. I think that's kind of a good time. And I think naturally the new year is, we see from, the platform usage standpoint in North America, the number of engagement letters that gets sent out, we generally see the spikes in December, January, February. So, some firms are on top of it and get them out early, others, sometime in the first few months of the year. So that's kind of what we see from our end.
Well, so that means that this is perfect timing to go through those engagement letters and how can you do it better? And so I'm going to stop for just a second and I'm going to say Heather's on her way, but I'm Liz Scott. And so many of you know me. I'm just like so many of you have a firm. We've got some clients and we use predominantly QuickBooks Online for all of them. And a lot of them have apps. And so we need to connect them. One of the things that we do is we actually manage them on an ongoing basis. There's a few that we just go ahead and train them and set them on their way. But there's a lot of times whenever we need to just monitor that solution because there's updates and there's things that can happen, apps connections can break or whatever. So we really like that ecosystem to be able to, I think, provide a business solution instead of just being an accounting solution. And I'm going to say thank you so much to Practice Ignition for being our champagne level sponsor. It was really hard because I had to decide, was I going to get my champagne glass out today? Or was I going to get out my martini glass because we have a really cool drink? I think everybody here knows I love coffee. So, yes, one of the reasons I get up in the morning is for coffee. So are you the same? Yeah, I'm a coffee drinker for sure. So Ryan is here with us. Ryan, I'd love for you to introduce yourself
Cool. Hey, everybody. My name is Ryan Embry. I've been a practice technician 7 years. So been to a lot of the industry events over the years. So perhaps I've met some of you in person or virtually on another webinar. But, we've been a big fan of the Appy Hour since it's been around. So we're excited to kind of have to be the official champagne sponsor this year and, work more closely with the community. In my role at Practice Technician, I head up our partnership, so help lead a lot of our county community initiatives like this, and then also work with our direct integration partners such as Intuit and Xero. So excited to be on here with everyone today.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. And we've got our agenda set out, but I'm going to go ahead and say one of the things that I want to call out in the very beginning of this is when I hear a lot of our firms talk, we talk about CRM, but I want to go back to this idea of what is it that we're really using? And really the thing that we need to do is we need to be able to create proposals. We need to be able to do it quickly. And so I think of a tool that is like a CRM as being something that's going to help massive amounts of people. But in a scenario like a lot of our firms, the thing that we need to do is we just need to be able to collaborate internally as a team. And then for us, there's a couple of people who can take sales calls. And when they're taking those sales calls, if I've given a quote that is different than the next person comes along and gives a quote, then we are sending mixed messages to our clients. So the thing that we're really embracing is this idea of having one place for all of our proposals to live, and then also making sure that we have this standard template to be able to pull over and over again. We offer a lot of the same stuff, creating, slightly different verbiage for different clients, different years or whatever of conditions. Then, that's really easy to go back through. I think one of the hardest places to get started with templates is the very beginning. What do I even say? So whenever you're looking at Practice Ignition today, I think that that's going to be a wow. Those of you who have seen it, honestly, this is like the best in class, so you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who haven't seen it yet, it's super cool because we've got all of the verbiage that fits our industry. It's the things that we do. And so being able to create those proposals and have standard pricing is super helpful for, doing it without needing to spend a lot of brain energy in creating those proposals.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a really good point of what you mentioned of just having a place to manage client engagements. I think often I would say we are category creating in some way. So I think often some folks might come to Practice Ignition and say, oh, well, is it a CRM or is it for my engagement letters? Is it e-sign? So we kind of are creating a category in our own way of what we would say, client engagement and commerce on top of that. So exciting to see. And yeah, back to that point of the content within the app, I would say, Liz, I'm sure you probably signed up a few years ago initially, and folks that may have been with us a long time. When you used to sign up for Practice Ignition, it was kind of, you'd get in there and you had to put in everything yourself. So your services, your terms, your engagement letter. What we've done over the last couple of years is really focused in on in-app content and making sure, based on your geographical region, the country you're in, we're providing up best practice service templates, pricing templates, engagement letters, and continuing to build that out as we see different service offerings coming along. But
the pricing was really exciting to see because it's knowing that it's based on region and the types of services. It's cool to be able to say, okay, all right, am I charging enough based on what I'm seeing here? Or am I charging a whole lot more than the industry standard? And is there some service that I'm doing that's above and beyond? But so I think it's really, really helpful. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say we have slides and they're going to be available to download. But really, my favorite thing is to come over here and let's just go straight over to the dashboard. And when you sign up, oh, I will back up just a little bit. Whenever you sign up, it is super simple. So there is a link and you're given the 14 free day trial. And so that's exactly what I did. We did it for the Appy Hour. And I went through there and it was, a couple of really quick questions. Who are you? And then being able to say, how did you hear about us? And then really, boom, you're in. So the actual setting up and starting the account is very fast. The next thing that you have.
Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, go ahead.
I put a link into the chat if anyone was interested in just following along and signing up. So just feel free to use that link in the chat.
Oh my gosh, what a great idea. Because you can totally be signed up and active and going by the end of this. Really, it's that easy. So
hey
when
guys,
you go.
I'm here. I'm late to the party. We had a snafu today, and I'm just going to tell you, my team migrated from Google to Microsoft today. And yeah. So anyway, I apologize profusely for being late, but I am here and I'm delighted to be here. So sorry about that, everyone.
Well, you're always forgiven and we love you.
I love you too. And hi, Ryan.
Hey.
So you joined at the perfect time because we were just talking about getting started, and I jumped over into our practice ignition so that way we could show what we're doing. And you know, the navigation over here on the side is just like QuickBooks, so that feels super familiar. And we have these various centers, but the discover area is the first place to get going. So meets practice ignition. These are really great videos. There's 2 short videos and you can watch those on your own, but it really talks about how do you use practice ignition and what are some things that you're going to experience during this setup. And then over here, the client experience. So what is it that your clients are going to see? And then boom, now you're to the point where you're starting to create some proposals. So what do you need? You need to have some branding. And I uploaded our logo and immediately it started asking for, do we want to have some other brand colors that would go along with it to be complementary? And then setting up our account. So this part was really easy, very familiar. Go ahead and bring in your general ledger. And then here's where I think a lot of the magic is. So example services. Right away, I'm able to say, okay, we're in this first category. We're going to be able to have over 40 of the most popular services that are going to be populated inside of our templates. So that way they're ready for us to be able to use. And then if you have some of your own, look right there, you could import them. And I'm going to say there's even some other things over here if you were in some other industries. So you can see I've got a client who's heavy into the developer world, and right here, the IT and software, that would be perfect for them. Or even web design, marketing, all of these have templates that the verbiage is designed for being able to you know, if you needed to be able to create that website, if you needed to be able to go through design, all of that would be inside those.
And I love that Practice Ignition is branching out into other industries, because it hardly seemed fair that accountants were the only ones that were able to benefit from all the awesomeness. So I'm really happy to see that you guys are branching out.
Yeah, we're trying to. I think we're still very focused on accountants, and but yeah, I think what we're starting to see is in that case of, you know, our accounting and bookkeeping firm customers, they, you know, work with clients in professional service, and, you know, you talk to a client, they're struggling with invoicing, they're struggling with sign contracts, they're struggling with AR. So it's kind of a solution that you can actually start introducing perhaps as well. And then you also have the case where, you know, we have a lot, this comes up all the time. We'll get messages where it's, you know, an accounting firm signs up and they send their client a proposal. They're like, oh my gosh, that was such a great experience. What is this application? I need to use it. So it's cool to see that as well.
And that property management, I'm thinking like leases and rental payments automated. Like that's kind of awesome.
Anything's possible.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. I had to.
Yeah.
Property management. So this takes you through and it shows you some examples, and to be able to look at this video, brand new prospects, what kinds of things could you do? The payments, if you're in the free trial, you're not going to see the payments here. Don't worry. That just means that once you subscribe that you're going to be able to have the payments in there as well. Over here with the terms, we're going to get into terms and we're going to cover this quite a bit. next week, but I do want to go ahead and share with you that this is part of this discovery process that really is your setup. So if you have an engagement letter that you want to continue to use, then you could actually upload that now, and you're going to have some help with being able to fit it to, oh, I'm struggling there. So being able to configure it.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, there's some built-in engagement terms inside of Practice Ignition. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and say the no thanks. And then you can see, look, I've completed my areas here of setup. It's really that easy.
Thanks. Yeah, to that point, we want to make it flexible. So, in that case, the engagement letter, if you've got one that you use currently and it's a Word doc or a PDF, you just upload that in there. Within a couple of days, our team will then format that in there. But we'll go into the other parts of the application. But ultimately, yeah, the main setup is, branding, getting your services and your terms set and your clients, and set up your integrations. If you are going to use payments, so yeah, in order for us to process payments, obviously there's risk in processing payments. You just need to put down a credit card and kind of go through some identity checks to go to process, but that's all in app and pretty seamless. But if you are going to use payments, I would recommend getting that set up before you start actually engaging your clients. So you kind of have that set up from the beginning. But you can always send yourself some test proposals if you wanted to kind of test out that experience.
Right, that's a really good point. So I think the reason that it makes sense to add your payments first is because it's going to change the way that you design your templates. And it's going to change the way that you start saying, how would I like to receive payments? Half now, half later. So I think that that's a really good idea, because you could definitely add it later, but adding it later means that you might have to configure some of the initial areas where you might have some email templates that go out. So you might have to change some of those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say clients. So this is where we went and played, and I added a couple of clients. And of course, Heather added my favorite because she just dearly loves me.
I do.
And then we've got a billing schedule, so we could actually go and look at that billing schedule, and we could see what's happening with Fantastic Beasts. We can see right here, we've got some leads and then some active. Yeah.
I just wanted to interrupt and go back, wind back to the payments thing where you said you can add it later. So I did that when I first started using Practice Ignition. I was like, I don't need another payments account. I'm going to do all of this in QuickBooks. And what a pain. That's all I can say is that it was a pain to manage both for me. And I do a lot of automation, but it was still a pain to manage both, because the seamlessness of using the payments with Practice Ignition and making sure that, the invoices come in and then the payments are matched up to them. It's just so seamless that it was kind of a game changer. It's like when I had Practice Ignition and I was also using QuickBooks to bill, it still wasn't like you get Practice Ignition so that you can set it and forget it, right? And by doing that, I wasn't setting and forgetting. And then once I made the switch over to just having all the billing done through Practice Ignition, that was where the big eureka moment was, where 2 months later, I'm sitting there going, I have not done any invoicing, none. I didn't have to do anything. And so that I just wanted to comment on that, because I think that's really important to, because I think a lot of us think, oh, well, I already have this, I don't need it. It is kind of, that's where, that the engagement letters and everything that are beautiful, but automating your accounts receivable, that really only happens when you're using the payments within Practice Ignition, in my opinion.
Well, to that point, the thing that I would say in there is being able to win an engagement. That's such an excitement. That's one of those things that you have an emotional reaction to. I would also say there is an emotional reaction to billing. And it's such a pain that instead of having that roller coaster one time, create that engagement, and then boom, you can automatically start receiving those payments.
Totally. Yeah, and I think it's a process change. So, unless you're starting your firm brand new today, most folks likely already have a way of getting paid or have figured that out. So it's just kind of thinking about that process, and then also the client experience of how you're perhaps going to change that.
And over here, so again, we have another navigation bar where we're able to go into some of these areas and see what's overdue. So, if we wanted to go and manage our AR, we could see it at a glance, or we could go and dig into it. And then we've got our proposals that are sitting here. So we could dig into those proposals to see what are the drafts, and then also what's waiting for acceptance, and even lost, because I think that that's important to know, because you might have somebody who, we have clients that will reach out to us initially, and then we won't hear from them for another 6 months or so. So it's nice to be able to even go through the lost area to say, okay, let me pull this back out, because now they're ready. Maybe they've gone somewhere else and they've been frustrated, and so they're back, and so the price maybe doesn't seem as shocking anymore. So there's lots of reasons that it's nice to keep track of even these lost proposals. All right, so as far as the library, oh my gosh, this is really cool. So I was saying earlier that we said yes to the accounting and bookkeeping services. So we've got some words right here that were auto-populated. I wanted to go ahead and look at what else was available, those other industries. So during my discovery phase, that setup, I did say yes to some of those other industries. So IT, we could actually look at that. It's got some words here, and then being able to have the template. Of course, this is coded in, so that way, once you start putting in some more information, it's going to pop up. But this looks so clean. Let's preview it. Once that goes out to the client, this is a nice looking engagement letter there. This is just the service piece of it, but already you're starting to create something that you can use over and over again, and it looks very professional.
And could you show them how they can map the QuickBooks service too? Down there, I was just, yeah, right there. That's where you would map it. So that it's not just you have your services in PI and it goes to one service item in QuickBooks. You can actually map those across. So you're still getting the granularity and the benefit of the QuickBooks reporting. So when you're doing your financial analysis inside QBO, you're still getting all of that, which is awesome.
And I'm going to let Ryan share some of these other areas. I think that this was a really nice how to get started. So Ryan, I think this would be a great time for a drink toast.
All
and
right.
then pass it over to you. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to get our drink on screen. And this is where I was saying earlier that I'm a huge coffee drinker. So here we go. Let's see. Let me make sure that I'm sharing my screen. Here it is right there. So I have my coffee beans in here. I don't know if you can see them though. Maybe if I pull them out, you'd be able to see them in here. Oh, they're hiding.
So I didn't want to be a party pooper, but I'm doing a dry January and I'm actually doing it. I'm like super proud of myself. Although today after this migration, oh my gosh, I think I may like be on my way to the liquor store pretty soon. So I'm drinking tea. I would really like an espresso martini and I may have one before the day is over, but that looks amazing.
I think so too. All right. So Ryan, you're ready to take it over.
All right, I'll share my screen. I have a glass of water, but I do like a good espresso martini. I will make sure to make one sometime soon. Let's see, can I share? Cool. Yeah, I think what it would be good to run through is, what Liz was just showing with some of the setup, but I think kind of focusing in on what the client experience would be. So what are some proposals that could go out to your clients and what they would see, and then we'll kind of go full circle and go back and show how to actually create those, and then we're talking a bit about templates, kind of have those as templates moving forward. So here's an example here. Let's go to this one first. So in this case, I'm from Growth Accounting. I've sent this off to one of my customers. So this is branded towards my firm. Another thing, a part of getting set up, we can create you a marketing brochure. So if you don't already have one, our team will kind of use Canva and kind of mock up what's on your website. and have one of those created for you. If you're already a customer and you don't have a brochure, just send me a note and we can see if we can get you one set up. But again, it's just one part that you can kind of embed into that proposal to give you a nice first impression. Heather, I know you sent me an example of what you used your brochure for on your renewals this year. Do you want to explain what you guys did there?
Yes, absolutely. So what we did is we renew our engagements with our clients every year, which a lot of us do. And so when we rolled them over, instead of sending our brochure in for our existing clients, we actually created a thank you note in Canva that thanked our clients for their continued business and wished them a happy new year into 2022. And it was just a nice little touch that the first thing they saw when they opened up the renewal was this big thank you note from our whole team. So that was really, I thought it was nice.
It's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to have just a note of thinking of you.
Yeah, no,
Gratitude.
it was good. So
another option here, I don't have that embedded, but you can also embed in a video. So maybe you've got a YouTube brand video or Vimeo or Loom. So what we're seeing now too is a lot of firms will actually create a Loom video, either customized for that individual client. So, hey, here's your proposal. Here's what to look out for. This is what we discussed, and kind of put that in there and have that video play first. Or they're doing a 2022 kickoff. That's kind of a standard video for everyone. So, hey, the first step is you're going to sign this engagement letter. After that, you're going to have to send me all these documents through this portal, and then so kind of giving that kind of explanation and using the engagement letter as that kickoff spot. So again, you don't have to embed in a brochure or a video, but it does kind of add another personalized touch to it to send that out. What your client sees next is a summary of services. So what you can do here is break down the different service offerings here. And in this case, I've got bookkeeping and payroll services with those standard descriptions. So what Liz was showing earlier is kind of where we pull from. But when you're creating a proposal, you can change that. Generally creating services, we would say you should have some sort of, limitation or tiers to your services. So you shouldn't perhaps just say bookkeeping or just say payroll. Maybe it's bookkeeping up to a certain level, or maybe it's based on transactions or invoices or annual revenue of the company. And similarly for payroll, maybe you're using things like per employee as kind of how you're billing that. So just some best practices with services there. You can segment out services into different projects as well. So in this case, we had some advisory virtual CFO services, and then we've actually got the tax services, so segmenting out the 1040 tax planning and a corporate tax return. So again, this is all pulled in from a template and customized for a given client, but just wanted to show an example that had a bunch of different services in it and how you can do that. What your client sees next is the payment schedule. So both parties are on the same page of how this is going to be billed. In this case, these three separate service groups of maintenance, advisory, and tax are all billed on a monthly recurring basis. You can see the different fees there. You can also display upfront fees on completion or hourly fees for more project-based work. And what we see more and more is a lot of firms looking to take some sort of upfront payment, whether it's a deposit on initial services or the first month services, just a kind of a good way to, when you're signing a client on, to kind of get them to have some skin in the game as well and to kind of kick off that engagement. Next step is payments. So we were talking about setting up payments before. Once that's set up, your client has the ability to enter in their credit card or bank account information here for ACH. You've got the option on the proposal level to turn on or off card or ACH processing. So maybe you just wanted to take ACH payments, or you wanted to give your client the choice. You've got that there, and then that's where they enter it in. The really good thing though is they only have to enter that in once. So in the case that Heather was mentioning, running those renewals year over year for her clients have already put in their banking or card information in the previous year. So when they're actually re-engaging and re-signing, that's already saved for them, so they don't have to enter that in again. And we've got that saved in the client file.
Can I just interject something too, is like for the services that we have where we've engaged, like for 1099s, we actually have a base fee and then we have a perform fee. And so in our engagement letter, we actually tell our clients that we will bill them to the card that they have on file once we've completed the work. So we can just go right in after we've completed the work and charge their card by creating an invoice in Practice Ignition after we're done. So you do have that flexibility. And what's nice about that is you're not waiting. You still have receivables. You finish the work and then you're billing them afterwards. And you just need to make sure that you put that, that authorization in your terms, right? That they're authorizing you when they sign the engagement to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think, that's the, Practice Ignition payments with on completion, since you have that method on file and you've had them sign the engagement letter to agree to be billed on completion, it really does put you in control when you complete that work or complete that project. Ultimately, just kind of trigger that invoice. You can have it from a payment receipt or a copy of the invoice as well. So they do get that notification. And lastly, capturing an e-signature on the engagement letter. So kind of having those terms and conditions pull through there, and then having them sign and accept here. So similar to other e-sign solutions, we're capturing a timestamp and IP address, and capturing a legally binding e-signature on that engagement letter. So once they hit accept, that's good to go. That's kind of where we would say the real magic of Practice Ignition takes over, and some of our integrations, that's kind of where that kickoff. So in the next session, we'll probably dig into more of that, what happens next after they get accepted. I do want to show here another example of proposal options. So perhaps you looked at Practice Ignition a few years ago, but now you're kind of looking at it again. This is functionality that we released. I'm getting ever since COVID, the years just blend together. At the end of 2020, we released proposal options, and we've seen a lot of our customers really love this functionality. So in that first example, it was just one option there where it laid out different services and pricing. But now you can also create up to 3 options for your clients. So here's an example that I have just from a template. In the case of tax, this could be for bookkeeping services, advisory, whatever it is, but ultimately you could have 3 different service levels that can be created and customized per each client. And then they can actually select the one that works best for them. So really good chance to kind of use some of the price anchoring perhaps. So maybe you do want them to pick the middle package, you can even put the recommended on there, or just showing, hey, here's our very basic level of service, but did you know, we could do all these additional things on top of that. So a really nice way to kind of present your different service offerings to your clients and give them a bit of the option on which one works best for them. In the case they selected the middle option there, they would go through that similar flow. So in that case, what they selected, the schedule of the payments, so how that's going to be billed. In this case, it was one-time payments instead of recurrings. Payment information again, so we've got that stored on that client level. And then signing in and accepting the engagement letter. To accept that there. Let's jump back in here. Heather, Liz, any other points on that kind of client experience or what that looks like for your clients?
Go ahead, Heather.
No, I think the other thing about the experience, the client experience is fantastic. One of the things I also love is that we use Intuit Practice Management, which is like Carbon. And so we're also able to grab the link from here and put it into an email if we want to do that. So in some cases, we can add it to a work item or other things like that kind of makes it seamless in our client experience, right? And you could do the same thing with Liscio or just a regular email is to copy that, send, if you wanted to. It's a little more work, right? Because you're not just hitting the send button, but in some cases, I think that's warranted because it does make it easier for the client because they're still just going into one platform rather than going into a bunch of different, although it's still easy to click on the email.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So when you hit send with Practice Ignition, it sends it out from our system. But in that case, you could always go and grab that link and copy and paste it. So maybe even you have them on a messaging system. So you mentioned Liscio, or you maybe have them on Slack. You can actually just send it to them, or even an email with that link, text message. So some way that you can just get it in front of them. It's one click and they can go, and it kind of has that extra personalized touch. But yeah, we'll also see that where maybe you're using more of an organizer, perhaps,
Yeah.
or kind of built into that workflow. You just kind of put that link in as one of the steps.
Right. Another question that I get asked a lot with as far as the people that have tax firms is, do you put like the tax return engagement letter in the terms? And you can totally do that, but we actually don't. We actually, our engagement letter that we send out to our clients is the scope of services we're providing. And then in Intuit Link, which we use with our tax software, that's where we're putting in the engagement letter for the return that actually talks about the taxpayer responsibility. So we actually have 2 engagement letters, but you could totally do this here by having in the tax service area, putting in that separate terms, right? That talks about their responsibilities, and that could streamline it as well. Do you know if how are other tax firms doing it? I know how we're doing it.
I think what we're seeing more and more is firms actually segmenting out their, their accounting work from their tax work. So maybe they have the monthly recurring, bookkeeping and payroll engagement that goes out, and then they send out the tax ones separately. You can bundle them all together as well in that one example I showed. But I think, we start to see firms that actually segment out a bit. We do have the ability to bulk create too. So if you do have a high volume, tens, hundreds, thousands of tax clients, or maybe even 10, 40 clients, we can do a bulk creation of proposals too. So we'll sometimes see that. And then one other new feature and functionality for folks that are offering tax is we do have the ability for multiple signatures. So some firms do want to get a signature from both spouses in the case of 1040, or if it was a partnership, wanting to get both partners to sign off. So now you do have the ability in Practice Ignition to actually send multiple signatures in your proposal. So both parties have to sign off on that before it becomes active. Again, some firms don't see the need, others, it's a really important feature for them. So that just got released towards the end of last year too.
That's awesome.
One of the things I'd love to do is to just create a simple proposal. So being able to have one of our clients, and do you want to demo that, or do you want me to do that? Because I'd like to just show how do you create it? What are some of the templates that you could use? And then how would you add maybe some options to send it out? And in doing exactly what you just said, there'd be monthly services, and then sometimes you can have those annual services that might only happen once a year.
Cool. Maybe I can drive it here, and then just make up a hypothetical example, and I'll kind of just add that in as we go. So yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
So beginning over where the clients were, you just clicked on the client, the Freeman Sporting Goods, and then you were able to say new proposal, and then here we are.
Correct. Yep. So yeah, this is the first step of the proposal here. So kind of setting the start dates, adding in the client information. So if you connect to QuickBooks Online, you would see your map clients there. You can also CSV upload in a client list. Heather, I remember you told me a good tip on how you manage your clients in regards to PI, IPM, and then ProConnect. So how do you manage it? Yeah.
So what we do is we use IPM. So what we do is we only work with QuickBooks Online clients. And because we're using Intuit Practice Management, which is carbon for Intuit products, and we're using ProConnect Tax, and we're using QuickBooks Online and PI, the way that we do it is we started off by creating the contact as the individual, and then we create a work item for the prospect to sale. Once we get their information, we have them invite us in as a QuickBooks Online user, and we accept it. At that point, now we've got the company name in QuickBooks Online. We review the QuickBooks Online company file before we give the proposal. So that's one of the requirements, is they have to invite us in as an account user or another user so we can take a look at the condition of their file. At that point, what we do is we're able to pull up the client name right within here. So I always start, I try my darndest. The only time that doesn't work is if I have a client that's on desktop, which I have 2 right now that we're in the process of working with, that are desktop clients that we're going to convert to QBO. then I have to create the company name, and then we have to clean up to do after the fact. But getting the information from our tech stack into QuickBooks Online first works great, because then I can just pull it right up when I'm creating the proposal in PI. And if you don't do that and you add it in PI, you can go in after the fact too and link the QuickBooks company, can't you?
Yep.
So you can go back in. So if you had to add it in PI first, you would still have the ability to go through and map it.
So I really like up there where the naming is. I like the idea, since we're doing these annually, being able to say that this would be the 2022 engagement.
Yep. So that proposal name is a really good spot for that. So you could say 2022, in this case, monthly accounting services or whatever that might be. And then you can kind of pick when you'd want that to start, either on acceptance or, maybe from, we're backdating this to the 1st of January.
That's an important piece. Like, there's a tip right there, guys, because I made this mistake when I first started, and I didn't realize I could go backwards in time. And so what ended up happening was all of my engagements ended up ending in the middle of January, right? Or whenever they started. And I wanted all my clients on the same annual year so that we were consistent in our workflow. So going back to the beginning of the month, and also being mindful of always having the engagements end on December 31st for us is a big deal, because we only want to be doing this rollover thing once a year. We don't want to keep doing it, every month throughout the year.
Nice tip.
Nice. Cool. So Liz was talking about templates before. So we've got service templates, which is what makes up a proposal template. So in the case that you've loaded those in, those are kind of all the services that then could be brought into a proposal. So what you'd see along the right side here is our provided templates. So we've got a few of our from Practice Ignition. What we're starting to do is bring in more partner templates, and we're actually going to be working with Heather and Liz to have an happy hour template. So we're hoping to get that in there as well, to kind of give you guys a custom template that they've both created as well. But when you select a template here, it'll then pre-populate in the services and then kind of all the other components of proposal as well. So you can see when I went into that services tab, it gave a name for that project. It added in some services there, so such as that bookkeeping service there that pulled from our standard service description that Liz showed earlier. You can tweak or change any of this on the client level if we do want it to be different. So this is in as well as that pricing. So that kind of pulls across your standard price, and then you can change that too. One quick note on provided templates too. What we see most firms do when they onboard is they might pull from some of our provided content, but then actually create custom proposal templates, that are a bit more based to how you run and structure your services. So what you can do is when you're creating a template here, you can always then save that as a new template, and then go ahead and have that as a new template in your account. So you can override an existing one or create a new template by giving it a name. So I think that's probably, again, one of the things to think most about during your setup is, first kind of thinking, okay, what is the library of services that we offer? Make sure we're kind of happy with those deliverables, what's included in those names.
I love what you just did. So up there with the templates, I think this is a great idea. I see life plan up there. So, solutions that you provide, and being able to service them. I think that anything like that, those are key to being able to make sure that you can do this repetitively, because we want it easy.
Yep.
So I love that those templates up there actually have some of the solutions named on them. It was, right in there.
Yeah. So that was one, I think when we work with a lot of partners, they often will be, in the case of LivePlan, they do a really good job of helping their firms kind of structure their services around the LivePlan method. So we've been able to take that and put that into Practice Ignition. Similarly with Gusto, they do their people advisory services. We brought those into Practice Ignition. So for us, I think it's nice to have partners where we can kind of pull that content in, and then it makes everyone's lives easier as well. But yeah, always have that ability to, maybe you create one of these and it was different, but you said, hey, I actually really like the way that one works. Let's save that as a new template moving forward. And then you can have that in your custom template list. So
nice.
that's a bit about templates there.
Well, what I love about these templates, Ryan, I use them. I used them and kind of adapted them to our firm when we got started. On my consulting firm, a lot of it was, I do pretty specialized services.
Yep.
So most of those were homegrown, where I created my own service offerings. But definitely in the accounting firm, these were a great help, and it's easy to go in and modify them. And with the new template editor, or the new proposal editor, you can now save those as a template. So after you've created one, you just create it, save it as a template and keep going. So the ones that Liz and I are doing, you just let the cat out of the bag that we're going to give you a package of templates. What we're doing, guys, is we decided the easiest thing for us to do that would be the most impactful for you guys, who are most of you are QuickBooks Online Pro Advisors, is we actually are creating templates that align with the engagement letters that Intuit provides to pro advisors in their marketing hub. So the terms, they're basically aligned based on the terms in those engagement letters. So what we'll be providing is a plug and play so that people that implement Practice Ignition will be able to have that ready to go. Because I know a lot of pro advisors use those as their engagement letters within their firms, but now you'll have the services to go along with it.
Awesome.
Yeah, because it's that getting started piece that I think that all of us struggle with, and you have to have headspace in order to be able to do that. And okay, Ryan, so right there I see edit billing rules. So I think that any place that we can share some tips on how to tweak Practice Ignition for our use is perfect.
Yeah, so I think with the billing rules, Heather mentioned, this is what we would actually call our new proposal editor. So we had an old interface before. And what we found then was accountants and bookkeepers have a whole bunch of different billing use cases on the way they like to bill their clients. So we needed to be a bit more flexible. So I would say with these billing rules here, you can really create and break any type of billing rule for any type of engagement you might have. So in this case, the frequency, so is this a one-time or a recurring service? In this case, we want it to be recurring. When do we want those recurring billings to start? So maybe it's $500 a month, and we want that to start from the day they sign and accept. So if they sign on the 18th would be the recurring invoice date moving forward. Perhaps you like to do all of your billings on the first of the month instead. So we'll set it to the first of the months there. So maybe from February 1st, every first of the month, we'll do a recurring bill. And then, how do you want that to recur? Do you want that to recur every month? Maybe you want to recur that every 2 months, or perhaps 4 months in the case of a quarterly engagement. Some firms do weekly billing for some of their services, so have that recur every week. And then an important note there is, do you want that to bill indefinitely for a service? So if it was recurring, do we want that to end on December 31st? Or do we actually want that to continue? So what we see in the case of perhaps if you're billing subscriptions back to your clients, or more of a monthly recurring engagement that you don't expect to end at a certain date, actually perhaps having that continually bill past the date, but also allowing you to come back in and adjust over pricing there. So there's a few different tips in there, hopefully, but I think that the important thing is understanding what is that billing use case you want to set up for recurrings. Is that monthly? Is it weekly? Is it quarterly? And then just making sure you kind of have this configured here how you like it, and then save that billing rule. And then in that case, it's just adding in the prices here. So that 420 plus 350 is what makes up that service group for those given billing rules.
So Ryan, can you just touch on, because this was something that I remember when I first started using the new editor, I had to reach out and say, how do I do this? How do we handle retainers?
Yeah. So in that case, what you can do is, I'm going to just create a separate project here. In case we'll call this tax services, just for example. So what you can do is you can have an on acceptance bill type here. So give that service a billing type of fixed, automatic, and then a price. So fixed, automatic, and then billed. When do we want to bill that? Acceptance. So I think I might have had. Oh, so yeah, that's billed from today. So that would be upfront. The other case, you could have a on completion bill as well, mixed with that too. So maybe you wanted to bill a certain amount of this on acceptance and the rest on completion. That's another thing we actually are working on at the moment too, is adding in better support for deposits. I mean, it definitely works in this way, but what we'll be adding in is the ability to actually segment out a service percentage based into.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of questions. You said engagement. So whenever you're thinking of the term engagement, and then you set up tax services. So this is the proposal, but then each of these separate service offering groups or bundles, is that what you're calling an engagement?
Yeah, so I would say yeah, I guess I have to be careful with my wording there sometimes. So we would say each one of these individual line item services would be a service. A service can be tied to a service group. So a group of services that would perhaps follow the same billing rules. If you want separate billing rules, you would just have to create a new service group. In this case, I added those into a separate project. So services, service groups, and then those can go into projects as well.
So when would you say I'm going to do a separate project? Is it going to be because it's going to be on a different schedule, or it's a different scope of work, or maybe a different timeline? What would the thoughts be there?
I would say a different type of work generally. So if it's a bunch of services that all kind of make up the same package, I would usually bundle those into the same project. But in the case of, segmenting out accounting work versus tax work, or maybe an audit versus an implementation, when the nature of the work is generally different and it's going to have different billing schedules. It's also just a display thing too. So
Yeah.
whatever you think. Yeah.
We did one where we had to file 5 years of tax returns. And so we actually split them out by year. So it was the bookkeeping and then the tax return for each year for the particular clients. That was one way that we did it. But typically what we'll do is we'll do exactly what you're doing here. We'll have like the bookkeeping, we'll have the tax. If we have cleanup, we actually do that as a separate project.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the idea of the bundles, because the bundles keep it together, and saving those bundles to be able to use and having that breakdown. For us, and one of the things it'd be fun to create our template around too is also the subscriptions. So we'll have subscriptions, and those are outside of our services, but we definitely want to have different lines for that, or different groups for that, because if we've got several different subscription offerings, we could do the bundling like right here.
Yeah.
And the tax rates too, right? So each bundle is only assigned one tax rate. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So if you had, it's like if you were selling, so if you had subscriptions and your state required that you collect sales tax, then you would need to make sure that that was in a different group as well.
Well, so we have a question from Karen, and she's saying, hey, all of these templates, how does she get them? Because she's an existing user. Are they already there and she just needs to go check, or does she need to import them?
Yeah, so as far as that proposal template, if you go in to create a new proposal, on the right side, you'll see this provided template. So I've just been pulling from those. So all of those will be in that account there. Connect you connect one-on-one as well, Karen, if you'd like, just to kind of walk through that too in your account.
Well, this has been fantastic, and I'm super excited about our session on Thursday. We're going to start to dig into some of the advanced use cases. And I think, yeah, we're definitely going to be going over the 3-tiered options, which is where you're really going to wow. Our firm is just starting to implement the 3-tiered options. And I'm going to share what the names of those 3 tiered options are with you guys that show up on Thursday, because they're pretty cool. They're aligned with our We Bring Balance to Your Back Office theme. So you guys can learn about that on Thursday, but also we're going to talk about the integration a little bit more and how you can automate using Practice Ignition, because Practice Ignition is in Zapier. So it supports a Zapier integration. There's a bunch of different, you have the newest one, I think, is Gusto, right? You have a Gusto
We can
integration.
talk about that one too, yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be some really, really amazing stuff. I'm excited. That's
I agree.
I'm excited to share.
No, this went by fast. Glad we have a part 2 coming soon.
I know, right? Right. But I'm excited. We have so it's optimizing your workflow with advanced Practice Ignition tips and tricks. We're going to be talking Zapier. We're going to be talking how it integrates with QuickBooks and how it integrates with other products as well. And then we do have some of our templates built out already, so we'll share those. And then yeah, lots of stuff.
It's really fun.
It is super fun.
A lot of times I feel like, oh, I know this solution. I feel like I'm getting reacquainted and I'm getting very excited. So this was very helpful. I think I learned a lot today. Thank you, Ryan, for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome.
We get to hang out with you again.
I know. See you soon.
And I won't be late next time.
Oh, it's okay.
Look at this picture of you, Heather.
Aww,
I love it. I love it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's so cute. So
awesome.
thank
Kathy
you.
just signed up for a 30-day trial. So fantastic.
Great, Kathy.
Yay.
Well, then join us Thursday for sure. You want to hear more tips and tricks.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you Thursday.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Well,